Welcome to the channel rather dubiously called Rufioh. I'm the best Yu-Gi-Oh tuber in my street, a very average player who uses this platform to trick you into thinking I'm good at and capable of playing Yu-Gi-Oh on any kind of level at all. Before we get started, why don't you hit subscribe for me, even if it's not because you secretly enjoy bad content, but because you pity me. I need every bit of help I can get. Hi guys, this is Joe here from Rufioh, bringing you something a little bit different, something I don't normally do. In recent months, I've noticed a few of the guys at locals, a few of the tuggers picking up goat decks, and they're quite fond of playing, well, Go format in general. So I decided to go ahead and pick up something myself. It's not something I've ever played before. I think we played a few rounds the other day, but this was my first experience of playing it. I was around when Go format was a thing, but I was playing strictly casually because I was still at school. So this is a whole new experience to me. The whole playstyle is completely different to modern Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm sure any of you who have played, and probably if you're watching this you have, or at least have an interest in it, you'll know how different the game is. So this is my first attempt. It isn't really a deck profile, it's much more a case of here's what I'm playing with, and hopefully you guys can give me some feedback on things that you would change, things that you like, your general opinions about the build and that kind of thing. Now I will start off by saying that this isn't completely my own build. I have looked online at a few different resources and gone with things that I have available to me. So it's important to note that there may be some options, particularly in the extra deck, that aren't quite yet viable. They're just hidden here because, you know, your extra deck can be as big as you like it to be, so I've just put them all in there anyway because they're potentially an option if I make changes down the line. So I'll show you what options I've got in my extra deck later on. Again, they're not particularly relevant at all times to the actual deck, and then we'll cover the main deck list, and like I say, hopefully you guys will enjoy what I've got to put out for you, and yeah, we'll take it from there. So we are going to start off with the monster lineup. So this is a Chaos build in particular. I felt it was one of the easier ones to start off with. The actual Go control deck itself can be quite skill intensive, and given that I'm new to this kind of format and what cards are in the format and getting used to it all, I wanted to start off with something that was a bit more simple, something I was a bit more familiar with, and sort of get stuck in. So I've started off with this Chaos build. So we start off with one Blackluster Soldier Envoy. This card is insane. As you know, it's still really good in the modern game. Yeah, it's just absolutely nuts, and even more so in the GOAT format. Of course, across all of these, you've got to remember that you've also got priority on effects, which is not something that that we're kind of used to in a common game. That is something that I played with before, so I am aware of its existence, but getting used to using it again is a little bit different. But yeah, Blackluster Soldier, absolutely broken, insane bit of spot removal, and of course, it's one of those machines that just gets you so much closer to the game. Apologies if there is a little bit of glare here, guys. I am filming right under a light, so but anyway, let's continue. So I've got 3 copies of Chaos Sorcerer. Apologies, one of them has to be in shitty gold rare, but you know, it is what it is. Again, another really good bit of spot removal, and yeah, the card's just really solid. So yeah, 3 copies of that, nice and easy to go into, plenty of ways to set it up. We then have 2 copies of Mystic Tomato. I was debating running this at 3 along with the Angel. I think 2's fine, just for space. I wanted to keep it on 40 cards, understandably. And yeah, so this just helps me get into some of my cool targets in the deck. We then have 2 copies of Shining Angel. Again, much for the same reason. It's just going to see some of the utility cards that we have available in the deck, and just kind of, you know, churn through our deck a little bit, kind of thin it out, that kind of stuff. We have 2 copies of Magician of Faith. It's insane that you get to use 2 copies of this, because in this kind of format it's absolutely nuts. I was really happy when I saw that you could have sort of two copies available to you, so yeah, really happy to have this in there. Card's broken, especially in this kind of format. I know back in the day that was like mandatory, like even right up until like much long after, right up until it got banned. 1 copy of Sangan, again, because it's like the pre-errata one, which is really cool. And again, it just searches so many different options in the deck. It's really quite insane, actually. We have one copy of Asura Priest. This is really, really good when you find yourself up against a set of goats. This can just plow through the entire field. More often than not, this is going to get stopped on summon as quickly as possible, or they're going to, unleash whatever traps they have available to them to get rid of this before it takes out their entire board. We have another Spirit Monster in Tsukiyomi. I'd really like to get a nicer print. I really hate the Dusa prints, but there you go. It works. It does what it needs to do. This is like Book of Moon. Obviously, it returns to your hand. It's dark. It's just really, really good. I mean, you can obviously flip down your flip effect monsters if you're running a lot of those, like Morphin Jars, like Magician of Faith, that kind of thing. And this just helps you go into those plays, but it also breaks up your opponent's plays as well. It's a really, really solid card. I'm really happy with the choice of putting it into the deck. We have one copy of DD Warrior Lady. Again, it's just a really good bit of spot removal. It's, searchable, that kind of thing, so what's not to like? And of course it's light, so it goes with the Chaos theme. We have one copy of Blade Knight. This is, again, the same sort of thing. It's nice and easy to get out, to see and get access to. It's really, really good against flip cards, which are obviously just a huge thing in this kind of format. So Blade Knight's really, really good for out in any tricky cards that are going to flip up and cause you problems. We have one copy of Tribe Infected Virus, fresh off the current TCG list. Really, really cool, nice throwback. I'm not entirely sure whether this is needed in the deck or not. It's something that I may change once I've done a bit more testing, a bit more playing. But we'll see how that goes. But I really, really like the card. As a whole, it's just insane, as you already know, particularly in this kind of format. And just a really good card. So who knows whether I'll keep it in or not. I'm not really sure. Maybe you guys think it's wrong. Please let me know if you do. We have one copy of Breaker. Breaker was insane back in the day. Just back row removal, beat stick, dark, everything you could possibly need in a card for this kind of format. Really, really good. Absolutely couldn't cut it. Definitely need this in a better print. We have one copy of Newdoria. This is something that gets searched out, and of course, again, it's just a bit of spot removal, and being dark obviously helps it as well. And one of my all-time favourite cards, particularly in the the older style cards, is Don Taluk. I loved it back in the day. It was absolutely awesome eating cards out of your opponent's hand. It's nice and easy to search. It's easy to get out with your battle searches, like your Tomato and that kind of thing. Just a really, really cool card, and I managed to pick up this nice first edition copy for those of you who are interested in your cool prints. This is a particularly nice one. I'm just really happy to be using it in the deck. And it does go in, once you get yourself in an advantageous position, your opponent tends to struggle with this card, especially once you start poking and taking options out their hand. And that is it for the monsters, so we'll move on to the spells just after this. Okay, and we move on to our spell lineup. There's some really, really cool cards in here, just stuff that you don't get to use in the modern game. Stuff like Metamorphosis. I mean, this card is rightly banned, and I don't see it coming back anytime soon. There are so many different options you can use in your extra deck, which is why the extra decks are so big. It doesn't matter what you play in the main. You can just throw a ton of stuff in there, and it's good to go. So Metamorphosis just helps enable some really cool plays. I do have a third one available. I couldn't really find the space or justify it in here, but maybe you guys know better than I do, and I'll trust your judgment over my own, and I can certainly try it out with the third in place of something else. I just wanted to keep the deck count quite low. So two of those for now, potentially go up to a third. We move on. I've got two copies of Creature Swap. Again, something that just needs to come in the nicer rarities. One of the problems of GOAT format is that there's just so many nice old rarities that just look so much nicer than the cheaper ones. But, at least we can play and have fun with it. So I've got two copies of Creature Swap. These are really, really good, of course, for Shining Angel, for Mystic Tom, that kind of thing. Pulling out utility cards that are going to get you further into the game, advance your game state, and, diminish your opponent's resources. So Creature Swap's really cool for that. And, of course, it also helps get rid of problematic monsters your opponent might have, particularly if they've only got one monster to give you. We have two copies of Nobleman of Crossout. This is absolutely insane in this format. There's so many good flip effect monsters that you just want to take care of them really, really quickly. And Nobleman does just that. It banishes them from the deck. The only downside is you can lose your own in doing so as well, but sometimes it's the price you've got to pay. Two copies of that, more than enough. You see it frequently, and that's all you really need. We then have two copies of Book of Moon. I do want to upgrade these to secrets as well. Book of Moon is just an insane card again, particularly in this format. Just being able to flip down flip effect monsters again, so that they can be resolved a second time. Just the fact that it's quick play, it can interrupt your opponent's attacks, that kind of thing. Just a really, really good all-round card. Just really, really cool. We have one copy of Snatch Steal. This card is absolutely bonkers, for good reason that we don't have it in the game anymore. It does the bits in the games whenever I've played it. We then move on to some of our God cards in this deck. Graceful Charity, absolutely insane. Again, a card that I really can't see coming back anytime soon, but absolutely broken in GOAT format. I think it's a must-play card, to be quite honest with you. I haven't seen any lists that wouldn't run it. So yeah, really, really cool. One copy of Pot of Greed. What does it do? Who knows? Yeah, all that shitty meme. It draws 2 cards. I don't need to add on that. The card's busted. Delinquent Duo, again, probably one of the biggest power cards that are available to you in GOAT format. Just being able to rip 2 cards out your opponent's hand for 1,000 life points is just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, I don't really need to elaborate on that one, I don't believe. We have one copy of Heavy Storm, breaking up all the back row, really, really nice. I don't think this can come back in the modern game for what it's worth. I do think we can get Feather Duster back though. But yeah, card's really, really nuts. Really good, especially if you come up against like a stun heavy variant or someone who's running a lot of back row. You can force like the GOAT activations and that kind of thing, and then play on from there. And then one copy of Mystical Space Typhoon. Same sort of thing, you know, just forcing the activation of cards, especially if you know they've got GOATs. They're going to have to shotgun it straight away, and you can go about your plays as usual. Back row removal in this is so important because the back row is so impactful. So yeah, MST just keeps enabling you to do that. And next we will move on to the trap lineup. So next we move on to the traps. You know, this is pretty self-explanatory. This is definitely one of the best traps available in the game at this time. Mirror Force, I do need to get one in a bit better condition. It's a little bit duffed up, as you can see. And I definitely want to get it in first edition. But really, really cool card. Absolute blowout in this game. It's one of those things you're always terrified your opponent has set in the back row. So yeah, just absolutely nuts. Ring of Destruction, pre-errata, of course. Again, just an insane card. The amount of times you just attack with something, do a ton of damage, and then flip this on, say, like a Blackluster Soldier, and you can just win that way. Just a really good bit of spot removal as well. Sometimes it's worth taking life point damage to get rid of an opponent's, like, you know, tricky card or whatever. Ring of Destruction, really, really cool. We have one copy of Dust Tornado because, again, spell and trap removal is so important in this at the moment. You know, that kind of thing. It's just being able to get rid of tricky back row. I think it's just another good way to do it. We have one copy of Torrential Tribute. One is absolutely fine. Again, it's just one of those cards you always worry your opponent has available to them. And, you know, if you've got your own, you're normally in a pretty safe place. We have 2 copies of Return from a Different Dimension. This card is absolutely insane. If this was in the game now, we'd be in a real pickle. It's pay in half, special summon as many banished monsters as possible. And during the end phase, you banish all the monsters that were special summoned with this effect. Of course, you can run multiple copies, which means you can resolve multiple copies. And normally we resolve this once, and your opponent doesn't have much to respond with. You've won the game anyway. And finally, we have one copy of Sakuret Suama. Again, just another really good battle trap. Battle traps are really, really important in this particular format. And I just think, you know, it protects your resources, that kind of thing. Pretty self-explanatory. And after this, we'll go on to what fusions I have available. Again, not all of them are super relevant. So yeah, if you do see any that are kind of unplayable, that's purely because the deck isn't finished being built. And I am looking forward to what suggestions you guys have. So, fusion deck next. Okay, so moving on, we go into our fusion deck. We have one copy of Thousand Eyes Restrict. This card is bonkers. It's usually going to be like the main thing that you're going into as much as possible. It's just really good. Nothing more really to add to that, I don't believe. We've got one Dragoness. Again, it's just like a potential target. A lot of these you'll notice are kind of like largely irrelevant. They're just an option if you need it. So that's that. Darkfire Dragon, another perfect example of that. Just again, it's just a target that you can go into. Fiend Skull Dragon's kind of relevant because it's got the negate, which is really nice. Negate and flip effect monsters is really important. Negate traps the target, which again in this kind of thing can be really helpful. We have one copy of Dark Belter. Again, it's got, you know, negates and that kind of thing. Just a really strong card, insanely strong in this, and I picked up for a really nice price, so super happy with that one. We have one copy of Kaminari Attack. Again, just a generic sort of target to go into, really. Reaper on the Nightmare, same sort of thing. Of course, it's got some added benefits. This card has like the craziest flavor text. I'm just going to read it to you guys because it's absolutely dumb. If you've never seen this before, the text is amazing. So this monster is not destroyed as a result of battle at any time, although damage calculation is applied normally. When this card specifically designates as a target as the effect of a spell trap or effect card, this card is immediately destroyed. The monster can attack your opponent's life points directly, even if there's a monster on your opponent's side of the field. When this card attacks your opponent's life points directly, discard one card randomly, select it from the opponent's hand, and discard it to the graveyard, or something like that. I don't know. It was a little bit fuzzy. But yeah, this card's flavor text is just insane. You should definitely read the effect online, and just have a good chuckle at how bad that's worded. One copy of Dark Flare Knight. I did consider running the Mirage Knight. Actually, last game I played, I thought I had it in, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to get Mirage Knight out. They were all thinking I was pretty wild for having it in, and it wasn't there. But it's you know, kind of slightly relevant with what it does. The lack of battle damage is whatever. Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's just a solid card. We have Dark Blade Knight, the Dragon Knight, or Dark Blade, the Dragon Knight, whatever. Again, each time it inflicts damage to your opponent, you can select up to 3 monster cards from your opponent's graveyard and remove them from play. This kind of thing is kind of really strong actually in this format. And I've got 2 copies of that actually to go in there. So, yeah, just kind of cool. We have 1 copy of Rai Senshi. So Rai Senshi is another one. It's just more negates, and that's something that you do really have to have available to you in this. That kind of thing is really, really strong. So the fusion summon of this monster is conducted with the above materials, whatever, we don't really care about that. As long as this card remains face up on the field, negate the effects of a normal trap card by paying 1,000 life points, negate the effects of all spell cards that target this card, and destroy it. So it's got really good inbuilt protection. 2k attack is okay in this kind of level. Yeah, it's just a really, really solid card. We've got One-Eye Armor King, just shutting off your opponent's zones and just having a massive, massive defense monster is really, really cool. Last Warrior from Another Planet. So, I'm sure you guys know what this does by now. If you don't, this is like one of the best Waken the Dragon targets. You know, I'm actually surprised if this is still available in the game. It's not something that comes up very often, but it's actually insane. If your opponent establishes this, you're usually in real trouble. So I'll read the effect to you. I'm just going to bring it up here so you guys can see as well. So when it's special summon, you destroy all monsters on your side of the field except this card. And as long as it remains face up on the field, neither player can normal summon, flip summon, or special summon any monsters. So you can set, but that is literally it. And of course, most things don't have a bigger defense, so you just keep beating over it. And until you eventually just establish enough resources that you want, you can potentially get rid of it if you need to, depending on what you have available to you. And I mean, normally if this lands and your opponent has no way to stop it, you've won the game. And our final card, final option, is Gatling Dragon. I never actually knew that this was available at the time until I started looking up the card pools, and I saw this and I thought it was really, really cool. You can just toss a coin 3 times and destroy as many monsters on the field as possible, but no more than the number of heads. And that is it, guys. That is the full deck. That is everything I've got so far. Of course, if you do think that there's anything I should be changing for this particular Chaos build, I have thought about running the Thunder Dragons and that kind of thing, but I ended up opting for this build. So if you guys have any suggestions, please drop those in. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed the garbage content I put together for you enough to hit subscribe and maybe even drop a thumbs up and a comment. Before you go, be sure to check out the links in the description to help support the people who are making this channel a possibility. Thanks again for checking in, and I'll see you in the next one.